Welcome everyone. My name is Erica Karp and I coordinate recruitment and outreach at Stony Brook's School of Journalism. So we're going to be talking a little bit today about the School of Journalism and also how our students have adjusted to reporting in this time of COVID, right? That was a major change that happened. So first, just a little bit of background about the school. We've been training the next generation of journalists and media professionals since 2006. And our students do it all. So they report, they write, they record audio, they shoot video and photos, they produce, they edit. They're very well-rounded. And this is important because when they graduate, they go off into a variety of different careers. In journalism, they take the skills that they learned and apply them to communications, things like public relations, digital media. A lot even go off to graduate school. So some go off to law school or to other degree programs as well. And we'll talk a little bit about those career paths. So we really value learning by doing inside and outside the classroom. And I want to show you a little bit about our school. And so you can get kind of a virtual tour of the School of Journalism since we can't be together in person today. But in the future, you are more than welcome to when we can be in person to come and visit the School of Journalism. I love showing off our newsroom and our TV studio. So just give me 1 second and I'll pull up our virtual tour. Okay, so enjoy.
In the School of Journalism newsroom, you'll have 24/7 access to all the multimedia tools you need to report your story. From fast internet, website creation tools, and the Adobe suite of software. This space is for the exclusive use of our journalism majors and minors. In addition, you'll get expertise instruction from professors with extensive journalism experience. We also have a state-of-the-art TV studio and control room for you to produce your newscasts. You will learn to make your news broadcast using the same tools the pros use, such as Ross Carbonite and Expression for graphics. We also have equipment for doing live reports from the field.
We're going live to Caitlin McDuffie, who's at Stony Brook Hospital. Katie?
Thanks, Alex. The coronavirus is now an international concern, which isn't good news for those who decide to study abroad this semester, especially in places that hit the coronavirus hard, like Italy.
Our newest addition is our podcast studio, where students can learn to produce and distribute great news podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this brief look at what awaits you for when you come to Stony Brook. Please reach out to us anytime if you'd like more information on what you saw.
Okay, so you can get a really great idea of our newsroom and our TV studio at the School of Journalism. And these are just really great spaces that our students work out of. But when COVID hit, a lot of them, our students had to go back home and they were spread across the country. And we really thought, we were like, what are we going to do? How are they going to report? Especially for some of our classes, like our students that were producing the Osprey, which was an online campus publication. How are they going to be covering their community safely and telling important stories that were happening? And our faculty, I'll talk a little bit about them, are absolutely wonderful. And our students really produce some fantastic work during such a hard time and such an uncertain time, right? And as I said, they were spread across the country, but they were reporting some really important stories. They were reporting from, students who were still on Long Island, but also upstate New York, closer to Manhattan and the boroughs. They were reporting out of Cincinnati and out of Washington State. So they were really everywhere. And you can see some of the stories that they produced through the Osprey. They also, though, worked on some other projects. For example, our students who were in an audio journalism class. I hope that some of you are fans of podcasts like I am, but they released The New Normal. And I want to play a little bit of this podcast for you, as I think it's really powerful. When COVID first hit our area, one of the hotspots was out on the East End of Long Island. And we have students who live out on the East End. in these small communities that were really impacted. And Ashley, one of our students, did a really wonderful and moving story about how it impacted her community. It was very personal because one of the places that had many COVID cases was actually where she worked. So let me share that podcast with you.
Healthcare workers have a tough job any day of the year, and they are really tested during a global pandemic. They have to be there on the front lines of the pandemic so they don't get to work from home and have long hours in a high-stress environment. Self-care doesn't always come first. Sure, they wear protective equipment and follow health protocol, but taking time for themselves and their families can be a challenge. The coronavirus hit Suffolk County hard. The North Fork of Long Island, that doesn't have much in terms of healthcare, got slammed. This is The New Normal, a podcast with stories about how the coronavirus pandemic has impacted a global hotspot. I'm Ashley Gagan. Already quiet communities became ghost towns. Residents were told to stay at home. The workers who did go out worked in healthcare and at retirement and nursing homes that saw some of the most grief. The virus hit home like I never would have imagined. Growing up here, I always thought it was the middle of nowhere. Nothing impactful could happen here, but I was wrong. In early March, the virus under the radar made its way to the East End, and my hometown of Greenport became the center of attention. There are tens of thousands of positive cases in Suffolk County and hundreds in the town of Southold, right here in my backyard. Ground zero for the virus in Greenport is at Peconic Landing, a retirement community and nursing facility. Both its residents and employees have been affected by the virus. The first confirmed employee case was on a Monday, and by the end of that week, everyone was in panic mode when several more employees and residents tested positive. And my mom, Linda, who works there, was not happy.
In the last 17 years of working in healthcare, I have not seen anything like this. The residents do become family, and it breaks my heart when any of them get sick or pass away.
Linda has been at Peconic Landing since the beginning in 2003 as a dietary aide in the health center. I've worked there as a server in the independent living side since 2012. Working in this kind of environment, it's like I've gained over 300 pairs of grandparents that live at Peconic Landing. My mom is a seasoned vet there, and she has seen a lot of residents at their best and worst.
This feels...
So you can really see the impact really the impact, I think, on our students too, that COVID had personally. So a lot of their stories took a really personal turn, which I think was new for them, as they were used to, reporting on other people's stories. And we found that a lot of them had important stories to tell themselves. And so a lot of the stories in this new normal are, in the first person. They're about their experiences. There's the story about, one of our students quarantining at home and that experience. So it's really moving to listen to all these stories and see the finished product of them. So they also, though, had to adjust. You can see one of our photos here from the Stony Brook News, which typically our students produced out of our TV studio. Well, how are they going to do that now when they were at their homes? So Phil Altier, who's our technical manager and our production supervisor, he was the voice that you heard during our virtual tour video, and he started sending our students equipment so they could broadcast from their home. So you can see this photo of Melissa standing in her living room, I think, filming herself for her stand-up for our weekly news show. Our students also produced some really fantastic long-form narrative work. So for those of you who are interested in writing and long-form journalism, you may be interested in our magazine writing class. And our students interested in that style of journalism produced Scenes from a Pandemic, which were some really moving stories about their own experiences, but also other people's experiences in their home communities dealing with the pandemic. And through all of this, our faculty were right there to lead them through this and to teach them and make sure that they were staying safe. We are really lucky to have a wonderful faculty who really care about our students. They have an open door policy. They love getting to know students. We are really lucky to be, you are really lucky that you will be working with Emmy Award and Pulitzer Prize winners. So our faculty are wonderful. This photo is of Professor Barbara Selvin. She is she is our internship coordinator actually at the School of Journalism. She also, this is one of her trips that she led and one of our Journalism Without Walls trips, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Journalism Without Walls. She is a fantastic person to get to know and really a mentor to a lot of our students. So Journalism Without Walls. I hope some of you have an interest in studying abroad. We have a Journalism Without Walls program, which offers our students short-term study abroad opportunities. So over our winter or summer break, these typically range from a week to 3 weeks, where our students go overseas and they report from overseas locations. This is really exciting for them. They bring back clips, video, photos, they are writing pieces. It's all put up on a website, so you come back with clips. So if you're interested in being an international correspondent, I really encourage you to take advantage of our Journalism Without Walls trips. This photograph is from when our students went to Cuba. They have also been to, I have to try to remember them all. They've been to Russia and Kenya. They've reported from the rainforest in Ecuador. They have been to South Korea and China, India. They've really been everywhere. Just a lot of great opportunities. And I should also mention that there's also scholarship money for these trips, which is really important. So experiential journalism. Once again, I hope that you've seen, we really value getting our students out of the classroom and going to report. We are lucky that we have a grant that supports some experiential journalism projects. Right now, our students are focusing on how the Stony Brook community, our campus and our hospital, are dealing with the pandemic. And they're producing stories that probably in the next few months, we will have up on a special website so everyone can see it. We also, though, our students typically, when they produce these stories through these experiential learning projects, they also are published elsewhere, which is wonderful because you're published by a professional news organization. So, for example, this photograph is from when our students were reporting on the Long Island Pine Barrens and the importance that the pine barren has to our local ecosystem. And those stories were picked up by NPR, which is an affiliate, were picked up by Wshu, which is an NPR affiliate station. Our students also produced another project about the history and about the lasting legacy of slavery on Long Island. And this was very much an untold story. And our students wanted to make sure that it was covered. So let me pull up just a little bit of video about that project so you can see them in action.
The first enslaved Africans arrived on North American shores in 1619. 4 centuries later, Americans are doing
Sorry about that, just a technical difficulty.
The first enslaved Africans arrived on North American shores in 1619. 4 centuries later, Americans are doing more to recognize that history, its legacy, and the ways in which lives and society continue to be affected. At Stony Brook University on Long Island in New York, journalism students decided to report on that legacy. They wanted to shed light on this dark history and show how its shadows linger. The students spent months contacting and interviewing sources, checking references and facts, and writing and rewriting. They dug through musty library archives, examining documents that had laid untouched for years. and they hike through woods hunting for graves, and they ask questions by the dozen. With help from their professors who have strong connections to Long Island media, they brought a classroom assignment into the light. The area national public radio station and the island's only daily newspaper each ran the students' stories under their bylines. Their project was timely, well done, and highly relevant to this particular moment in time, as protests across the country highlight the sanctity of Black lives. Their project was also typical of the Stony Brook School of Journalism, where students are expected to learn and practice the tricks of their trade. It tells stories that really matter to their campus community, to the region, and beyond. They learn ethics and responsibility and take to the streets, notepads, cameras, and cell phones in hand. Accurate, ethical journalism matters now more than ever. By supporting the Stony Brook School of Journalism, you are helping to uncover the past, document the present, and prepare for a better future. Learn more at stonybrook.edu/journalism.
So you can see that work that they completed. And I think something that's really important that we really value here is that our students are working on timely projects. And this goes back to how we adapted when the pandemic hit, how we wanted to make sure that our students were focused on that. And they were working on stories that had, that were connected back there, these big national stories. And how do you connect that back to your local community? And that's something that I think is really important and something that we really want to do at the School of Journalism. So connecting back to really local news, I mentioned WSHU Public Radio, where our Pine Barrens story was featured. WSHU is an NPR affiliate station. But their news bureau is located right on campus. It's actually right on the 4th floor of the library because that's where the School of Journalism offices are. So we have students working for WSHU each semester in internships. So it's a wonderful opportunity for our students. And they also work in paid supervisory positions. I love this photograph. This is of actually their assistant news director, JD Allen, who's one of our alums. This was when he was interviewing, I think this was at some sort of event about climate change. And he was interviewing someone dressed up as a polar bear. Just a great photograph. So our students, when we are not living in the middle of our pandemic and all of our students are on campus, we also really like being involved in local things that are happening right on our campus, on our Stony Brook campus. One of my favorite campus traditions is Roth Regatta, which is an annual tradition in the spring where student groups, different departments, all different organizations across campus build boats out of cardboard and duct tape and race them across Roth Pond, which is located in one of our quads. That's where our residence halls are. And our students produce Roth Regatta Live, which is a live show of the regatta. And to give you an idea of how this works, it really functions like a sporting event. So they do sideline coverage. They have reporters at the finish line. We even have a camera that goes over Roth Pond. So if you've ever watched a football game, you'll see that they have the cameras going across the field. We have a camera like that goes across Roth Pond so it can get footage of students in the boats racing. It is definitely it's definitely my favorite campus tradition, and it's one of my favorite things that our students do and produce. So I want to show you a little bit. So our students, once again, getting them off campus and going to report locally. So this is something that we've done in the past. This year we didn't have our election night show, which we were sad about. But in the past, and typically, and I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward, we come back to it when everyone is together. We have done election night coverage. During the midterms back in 2018, our students actually we teamed up with Padcaster, which is a company that utilizes iPads, and you can basically set them up to do live broadcasting. And you can check out this video for a little bit of a behind the scenes look at how our students produced their election night coverage. And also it gives you a glimpse into really how we really try to be innovative at the School of Journalism. And we're always thinking of new ways for our students to be able to learn new technology, but also to get out into the field so they can report.
Guys, quiet in the studio.
We're getting super quiet.
Quiet in the studio, guys. My name is Rachel Eiler. I'm a junior journalism major at Stony Brook University, and I am one of the producers and anchors of our live election broadcast here tonight. You know, tonight we're going to be using the Padcasters, obviously, and going remote from different places, which is something that we weren't able to do in the 2016 election.
We're going live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. It's the SBU School of Journalism.
Stand by, not yet. Just give a few more minutes. It's a hopefully a full immersive experience of what it's like to do news coverage during a live event where you don't know what's going to happen next. So those feeds are going to come in via Padcaster and Skype. We'll have one at the Democratic side, one at the Republican side. Do I have my Padcaster teams here? Who's going to go out to Gershon? All right, Gershon's crew is leaving.
The room, it's going to be exciting, but people are going to be anxious. That's going to be a common emotion.
It's about 8 o'clock. We're going to be going live soon. Let's see how it goes.
All right, help them out with the audio. Make sure they're good with audio. Make sure we're good here. Ready to go? Can I have open, please?
Yeah. So when you point to me, I'll go? Yeah. Sounds good to me.
At the Republican Committee headquarters. Nick?
Q.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm coming to you from what has been billed as more than just a watch party, but rather a victory party.
The music is loud and the drinks are flowing.
Thank you, Rachel. Right now I'm with the Suffolk County Democratic Committee in Hoppa. I'm able to use an earpiece and a microphone, and it's all in this backpack. It was so easy to bring. We were actually making jokes about it because NBC, they had a whole truck. They needed a whole truck, and all we needed was a backpack.
Of course. Podcaster is working great. It's so easy. Like, we really don't have to do anything. We just have to frame them up and then make sure the interviewee and the interviewer does their job right.
I'm here with a local Zeldin supporter, my friend Patrick.
Zeldin, what the president did, he didn't vote for the tax bill because the tax bill did hurt some people around here. I
think it's going to be a big Zeldin victory.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Nick. We'll be checking in.
All right, you're clear. You're clear.
Like Phil said, it's a backpack to broadcast, so it's so easy to just like set it up and then boom, go from Skype, and then we're live on Facebook.
Okay, so we set up the tripod first, and then we put on the iPad, the Padcaster.
We came here and set up probably in 10 minutes, and we're not kind of grounded to any sort of malt box or anything we have to plug into. We just throw the iPad up on the tripod, and we're ready to go.
We are the ones that are going to be producing, anchoring, field reporting when the next presidential election comes out. And this is a pivotal moment.
Yep, you're done.
And
you're great. You did great.
Hey, we did it, guys! Yay!
Woo! Yes! We're out. Credits.
I thought everything ran really smoothly.
The earpiece, everything was good. The feed was good. It just made everything a lot easier, just more feasible, I think. And I guess that's the bottom line. It was a good night. Hopefully it's the first of many good nights for you guys and for me.
So one of the really fun things for me watching that video was about how Rachel, one of our alums now, mentioned about how during the next presidential election, which just happened, how they'll be the ones out covering that. And that is very true. So Rachel is on air at an NBC affiliate, I believe. And we'll talk a little bit more about Rachel. We'll come back to her story, but she was covering the election and the campaigns. You saw Rebecca Leibson. She too she's now down in South Carolina, I believe. So you can see how that experience really translated over to their professional careers once they graduated. So we also have a lecture series called the My Life as Lecture Series, just another opportunity for students to learn and hear from journalists from all different walks of life. You may recognize a few faces here from Christian Amanpour, David Carr, the late David Carr. We've had just really some fantastic guests come to speak to our students. So this actual event is now virtual. It is streaming to the School of Journalism's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. And we will be hosting Somini Sengupta, who's the international climate change correspondent for the New York Times. She is one of our My Life As speakers, as well as our Colvin Memorial Lecture speaker. And she will be speaking virtually during our virtual lecture on November 18th. That will stream live to, once again, the School of Journalism's YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our Twitter account. So if anyone is interested, it should be a really interesting lecture. So our students also have some other opportunities. We really like taking advantage of our location and getting our students into Manhattan, the media capital of the world. So we have Professional Fridays. We've also transitioned this to a virtual event for our students. But when they're on campus, we take them into the city. They go on tours of news organizations. They've been everywhere from the New York Times to AP to Sports Illustrated, and they get to see a working newsroom, and they get to network and hear from people who work in these newsrooms. And one of my favorite things about this event, this opportunity for our students, is that when we have alumni working at those news organizations, a lot of times they lead them on the tour of the newsroom. We also have a class called Reporting in NYC, so our students spend time reporting from New York City. This typically is a class that's offered during the winter intersession. So internships, you've probably heard that internships are incredibly important, and they are. So I mentioned earlier Professor Barbara Selvin, she's our internship coordinator. We also have a wonderful committee of professors who work with our students to make sure that they're prepared to succeed at internships at many different news organizations. These are a few of the places that our students have interned, but there are many more places that they've interned. So you can take a look at some of the exciting places. And we're really proud of just all the places that our students have interned, because they do some great work. Here's three students that have completed some wonderful internships. So Brianne Letta was the Dow Jones News Fund. She interned with Royal Media. Felicia Lalomia was a New York Women in Communications. Her scholarship and intern. New York Women in Communications is a great organization that you can apply for internships through. So if you're interested in magazine internships, things like that, definitely check out New York Women in Communications. And then Rebecca Liebson was part of the inaugural class of the New York Times Fellows. So she spent a year post-grad interning for the Times. So she was part of their 2019 to 2020 fellowship program. So I mentioned Rachel earlier. So we also have a Wall Street Journal fellowship. This is a 10-week reporting assignment that is awarded to a recent graduate of the School of Journalism. This is sponsored through our Marie Colvin Center for International Reporting. So we have a Center for International Reporting. Its mission is to train the next generation of overseas foreign correspondents. It is named in the honor of Marie Colvin, who is a Long Island native who was killed while covering the conflict in Syria in 2012, I believe. So Rachel was sent to the Wall Street Journal London Bureau to complete her 10-week reporting assignment. Here is a photograph of her at the Bureau. And shortly after she got there, the pandemic hit. And I remember getting a phone call from her asking, I need to get home. And that was also because not only were things shutting down, but she had to make sure she was home because she was going to be starting a job at an NBC affiliate in Wisconsin as a multimedia journalist. And she is on air. She's always posting photos of the stories and videos of the stories that she's covering. And it's just really exciting. If you follow us on Instagram, we're always trying to share what our alumni are up to. So I highly encourage you to follow us on Instagram because you'll see some of the things that our students are doing. Sorry, my light just shut off. So we also really encourage our students to get involved in campus media. So Stony Brook has a number of student run campus media outlets, including the Stony Brook Press, which is a magazine-like news outlet. There's the Stony Brook Independent, which is an online news organization. We have a radio station on campus. In addition to WSHU's News Bureau, we actually have WUSB, which is our Stony Brook radio station. And then we also have the Statesman, which is a more traditional campus newspaper. So when the pandemic hit, once again, the students who work for these news organizations, and I just want to say that the School of Journalism does not oversee these campus publications. However, many of our students work for them. And once again, they were thrown into this when the pandemic hit. You know, how are we going to work as student journalists and as members of these campus media publications? I really encourage you, if you're interested in student journalism, to check out Pointer's website, but also to see how college journalists have covered COVID. They launched a searchable database where you can see by state, by school, how students were covering the pandemic. And it's really fascinating. But our students, our majors who are involved in those campus media publications, were covering stories as well. In addition to their classes, they were also covering student stories for these outlets. And you can see some of the stories here that were covered for the Statesman. So what does this all mean? We talk about all these opportunities and where does it get our students, right? Why do we offer them all these things? And it's really because we want them to be career ready, and they are career ready. We're really proud of them. This is a sampling of all the different news organizations that our students have worked at. And there are many. And there are a variety of news organizations, from local weekly newspapers to international news organizations. But we're proud of all of our alumni and all that they have gone on to do. So some of them are on air in broadcast television. You can see Nikita Ramos. She now works at News 12 Westchester. So you can see a photograph from when she was a student at Stony Brook on Stony Brook News, and then when she's on air now. Basil John, class of 2016, works for Nexstar Media in Washington, D.C. You can see when he was hosting our Stony Brook Sports Update, and then when he's on air down in Washington, D.C., now that he has gone on to his career in broadcast journalism. Chris Cameron, class of 2018, is a news assistant for the New York Times down in Washington, D.C. as well. Nina Lynn is a multimedia producer for NBC. So a variety of different things. Christopher works for, more traditional news publication. Nina is really into multimedia, photography, video. And they also take the skills that they learned as journalism majors and apply them to related fields where they're not working in what we consider to be news or traditional journalism. So Scott Moore, class of 2011, works for the WWE as a YouTube content manager. I know we have someone on the call right now who is interested in sports. So Mike Danello is the digital initiatives coordinator for Major League Baseball. He's a big baseball fan. I can tell you that we also have an alum working for the New York Rangers. He started out as a weekly newspaper reporter and went on to work for the Rangers doing digital media for them. And some of our students, like I said in the beginning, they go off to law school. Journalism is a really great major if maybe you're interested in going off to law school, because you're learning how to write really well, you're learning how to communicate effectively. So you can see Leah, who was in that photograph, talk a little bit about her journey from journalism to law in one of our career workshops that we had held over the summer and that we continue to hold throughout the semester for alumni and for our current students.
But I think that everything that I learned from the School of Journalism has helped me in my career, especially being a broadcast major. I litigate a lot. I'm always in front of a judge. When I was at the DA's office, I was quite literally in front of people every single day. Trial work, the broadcast skills that I learned kind of went hand in hand in terms of voice inflection and how to just speak to people, really, especially with the experiences that I got from learning man on the street interviews and things like that.
I pretty much just
So you kind of get an idea of how she used some of those skills that she learned in her broadcast journalism classes and applied them to her career. So there are many different paths that you can take with a journalism degree. Those are just a few of them. So this is some contact information for us at the School of Journalism, how you can learn more. You can also give us a call or send us an email. As I said, follow us on social media as well to stay up to date with some of the latest happenings. But I will stop sharing my screen and I will take some questions. I think we had one question.
Thank you, Erica. Before we do get to the Q&A portion of it, I do want to provide a little bit more detail about the admissions lens and what we're looking for in our applicants. And so the most important thing when we're looking at applications is how is the student telling their story? You have different pieces that you're going to be submitting, such as the application with all your personal information on it. You have the activities resume, which is going to highlight what you're doing outside the classroom. You have the personal essay, a chance for us to get to know you a little better and what your interests are. And then you have the letters of recommendation. So how do people in your community see you and what kind of motivations, character traits there might be, things that you're interested in. We want to get to know you because these are going to be things you're pursuing at Stony Brook and how you're going to be joining our community. Now, in speaking with Erica in the School of Journalism, they always tell me that, show your interest in journalism. Let us know what your passion is in those spaces. So if you have a specific area of interest, such as broadcast or media studies, traditional journalism pathways, we want to hear about that. And it's perfectly okay if you don't know at this point. The program is designed to give you that discovery process and then confirming your interests along the way and building different areas. So, if you do have any questions, I'm going to drop my email in the chat as well, and I'll turn it back over to Erica now.
Thanks. Okay, so let me just go back to this last slide. I think we had a question about the contact information, so you can jot that down. And then we had some questions. Let's see here. So science classes. So Stony Brook has a variety of different science classes that you can take. You may even need some science classes to satisfy a general education requirement. So that is definitely an opportunity. Now at the School of Journalism, we do have some electives for science reporting. So for example, the students covering the Pine Barrens project that I mentioned, we're working closely with one of our professors who specializes in science journalism. So those classes, we do offer those classes. So there are those opportunities. Okay, let me just stop sharing this. I hope everyone has that information. We also had a question about the recording, and we will have the recording posted on YouTube, I believe. Is that correct, Christopher?
Yes, we are currently recording to the cloud, so we're going to go in and make sure the transcript and other pieces are correct, and then we'll have that updated soon this week.
Thank you. So I have a question for Maddie about what does the ESPN internship entail? So internships range. So the ESPN internship that you saw the logo probably up on the slide, there can be basically the opportunities, they can vary depending on what internship specifically you are applying for. If the internship is for journalism and you're receiving journalism credit, we want to make sure that you're actually doing something that will help you in the future when it comes to journalism. So that is reporting, that's actually doing research and maybe getting some clips. That is really important. That being said, though, you may want to intern at ESPN doing something else, maybe doing something with social media, and that is completely okay. And you just don't receive journalism credit for it, but you can receive other credit. So I would say it really depends on the specific internship that you are looking for. I hope that kind of answers your question. I know it isn't really specific, but okay.
And to build on Erica's point about receiving it for other credit, every Stony Brook student has to satisfy what's called an EXP Plus credit, which is part of our liberal arts requirements. And so students can satisfy that with either research, an internship, or study abroad.
Thank you. So I think that those were our only questions for today. So I think we can wrap up. You have our contact information. And once again, I'll just repeat myself, but when we can be in person again, you are more than welcome to come to campus and visit us. I would love to give you a tour of our School of Journalism, our TV studio, our newsroom. You are more than welcome to sit in on one of our classes if we can do that. Our professors and our current students love meeting our prospective students. So I just want to remind everyone of that. So thank you so much for joining us.
And if you do make your way to campus, I have some meal cards to give you and the folks that you're traveling with, so you could taste some of our great food on campus as well.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a great night.